Okay, 4 o'clock, this is Britt Moore. I'm going to call the meeting of the July 16th Finance Committee to order. And we'll start off by saying that Chairman Britt Moore is in attendance. Councilman Victor Jones is in attendance here at City Hall, and I'm checking Councilman Monica Peters, Councilwoman Monica Peters, are you with us? Not yet. Councilman Michael Holmes, are you with us? Not yet. Okay, we'll paddle for just a second because we got to get at least one of them in here for a quorum. You don't have a text, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay, I don't.
About texting the mayor, see if he can jump on, or Chris.
Renee's just sent out the update about.
Monica, I talked to her.
Okay.
I
I'll
think
come out at 4 o'clock.
Lauren Hill with EDC, can you hear me?
I thought you were waiting until after the.
I just saw you say yes, sir, but I couldn't hear you.
I've turned my sound on. Yes, sir.
There you go. All
It's
right.
up to date, so I talked to the mayor.
Monica or Michael, have you checked in? Okay, sorry for the technical difficulty. We're working on that. Hopefully we'll get that resolved very shortly and can move forward. We have a somewhat hefty agenda. Eric, we were talking, so just about to kill some time, if you'd like to say what's going on over at the stadium was something for people to know.
Oh, that they are having lunch at the stadium. It started today. You can go out and order lunch and eat at the stadium.
From 11 to 2?
I believe it's 11 to 2, yes.
Something like that. I'm sure you might could check the website. So anything we could do to support them. Is that Michael?
Mayor.
That's
Who is that on?
Major McNeil.
Major McNeil.
Oh, okay. For those of you that might have just joined us in the last minute or so, this is the Finance Committee meeting, and we have 2 members that we're trying to get in here remote. We've got to get one of them in so we can have the quorum to get the meeting started. So that's why the silence and the delay at this point.
We can try to see if Chris or Jerry.
They were
Mr. Moore, this is Chief Schultz. I'm willing to let Major McNeil cover our portion of the briefing as well today.
all right. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Chairman, while we're waiting, you mentioned that the finance agenda was fairly heavy, which is not untypical, being the first meeting after we adopt the budget and everything. But for your information, because of the uncertainty with the revenues this year, we've asked the departments to slow down their purchasing, and what you have in front of you today is generally those items that couldn't wait,
Right.
that either are continuations of existing projects or purchases that had long lead times, and especially in equipment, that we needed to go ahead and get in the queue.
Sure. Well, that's understandable. I do know there's a few questions that I have, and someone had called me, one of our council people called about, so we'll go over those. But it's a very hard time financially on a personal level for me, and it's hard for anybody to budget and guess which way the wind's gonna be blowing the next morning when you wake up, so.
You might call Mark.
Yes, I went straight to voicemail. I left a message.
Text her. I mean, I know she's aware, because she and I talked earlier today.
Mary said that, Councilman Holmes is having issues. I'm not sure if it's connection issues or what.
Okay. Who was reaching out to the mayor,
I texted both him
and Chris? Okay.
It says phone connection issues.
Is that just something,
Just give them.
that's just city bylaws that says
Cell
that
phone, the dog.
only the mayor or mayor pro tem can be a substitute alternate?
Or
It's in
call
the
him on the phone.
policy that council adopted.
Okay.
It's charged. It is.
We may want to
Tesla
consider
just hooked up to the
amending that
space
if we
station, didn't it?
continue on this.
Tesla just hooked up to the space station, didn't they?
Oh, really? I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, and we're trying to get a.
Oh,
Can that be amended?
I know Tesla went up.
Yeah, they can make it.
Short-term service will be adopted. Monica call.
That is the door now.
Hey, Monica. Okay, what number were you? 803-7698.
Yeah.
Let me see if that's right.
Oh, is that live now, that phone thing?
It is
What's that?
883-3612.
Try 883-3612.
Tell her it's a Polycom.
Correct.
Just the sound.
Eric, what I was saying is that possible to be amended? Sort of like we had amended things to be able to do the remote meetings during the pandemic. Is that something that could be approved?
I don't know, we'll have to talk about that. We'll check on that.
Okay.
Or if you have her number, we can just dial in
Call her.
to her number.
Here, I'll show it.
She's gonna try right now. There she goes.
Oh. Hello?
Hi.
All right, you're live.
Hey, Monica, can you hear me?
Hi.
All right, I'm on the other end of the room here, Monica. This is Britt. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So we have 3 folks present. I know Councilman Holmes is having connection difficulties, but they are working with him and hopefully he'll join us soon. But we do have 3 present now, so we will begin our agenda and let Councilman Holmes join us as soon as he can. The first item on today's agenda is item 2020-238, and it is dealing with Elliott sidewalks and the delays and the COVID situation. And Greg Ferguson is going to go over this item with us.
The item is an extension, a proposed extension to the land development agreement with Elliott Sidewalk Communities. And this is in response to really the current office rental or office leasing environment that we're in. And as you're aware, the demand for office space has slowed down dramatically. The building that is located at 275 North Elm, which is kind of the food hall building, has 2 floors of office. That project has gone horizontal and a lot of the site work has been done, but the vertical right now is kind of in a hold status. That has implications for other projects as well. So sites C, G, A, and H are affected by any slide in the development schedule. The request from Elliott is for an 18-month extension on the current schedule. That would affect each of the projects. Building C would move to July 2022, so that is the food hall building at 275 North Elm. Building G, which is the condo site, is commonly called, would move to March 2023. Building A, which is the hotel site, would move to September 2023. And then the apartment deck, the apartment in the parking deck would move over to March 2026. That's building H. One thing to emphasize with this is it is not a guarantee that those dates are the new dates. We certainly will continue to work with Elliott to see if there's a quicker delivery date on some of the projects. But what this simply does is takes the original land development agreement that was signed and puts that 18-month schedule on the finish date for each of the projects. So it does mean that the project developer would not be in default, and it still signals that the project is moving forward, although it's moving a little bit slower time frame, primarily due to the current COVID environment. So.
And we're showing this as a non-budget impact, but it's kind of a budget impact in future what we had planned
It's
because
just
of
not
this disruption. But
It's not an additional budget impact.
Yeah.
From the original agreement.
I think the impact is it could delay, in theory, the eventual property tax schedule that's paid and the start of that payment. So today's cost is really not.
This is one of the many ramifications of what was going on. I think I would like it to be noted that prior to the COVID outbreak and the real effects that started somewhere around March, our city and our staff had us, we were growing nicely against the anticipated budget. So these are difficult decisions. Anybody else got a comment or a question about this request? Seeing none, I'm going to make the recommendation that we approve item 238 and grant the extension on the items that are requested.
Second.
And that is a motion. There's a motion and a second by Councilman Jones. Councilman Moore is aye. Councilman Jones?
Aye.
And Councilwoman Peters? Councilwoman Peters, can you hear me? Councilman Holmes, you're not there, are you?
This thing saying connected.
It's on.
Okay, I've got a message here that Michael says he's on. Michael, is your volume turned off? Okay, I
I
can't.
might come now.
Okay.
Sorry.
Did you hear the discussion on that item, Councilwoman Peters?
Pardon me, ask me that again?
Did you hear the discussion on the first agenda item about the extension contracts to Elliott sidewalks?
Yes, I did, and I was able to talk to a few people today prior to this committee meeting just to kind of, figure it out, because I know that we're also yesterday in the P&L committee talked about the incentives for office development in that area, and I think the two pieces together could work nicely together. My only concern is I almost wish we could just extend it, especially the building C portion, to next year if we need to extend it. I mean, I'm really hoping that this office incentive will help trigger. I know that there's zero interest right now, but I'm really, really hopeful that it will. And I just don't want to put it off too long, because I think that the food hall is going to be a key player. Although I know that the success of the food hall is going to rely greatly on the offices. So I understand that it's kind of like a double-edged sword, but I just don't want it to seem like we're not in any hurry, because I think we are.
I think that that's very accurate. Also, did you hear Manager Ferguson state that he was going to be in regular contact and trying to to see any way to, you know, move these items forward. This is kind of a paper thing and a very fluid time, so I certainly think our staff is aware of the urgency with which we need to re-engage the economy as quick as we
No,
can.
I totally agree, and I
Okay.
think staff has done an amazing job, and, yes, I think I'm fine
Okay.
with that.
All right, well, I've made a motion to approve it. I don't know if you heard that, but.
I did not hear that part.
Okay, well, there is a motion seconded by Councilman Jones. Are you in favor of this item?
Aye.
Councilman Holmes, I got a note from you that you were on, but I can't hear you if you can hear me. So we're going to go on and move to the next one. And as soon as you can, feel like you're getting through, just shout out and we'll get you back in there. The next item on the agenda is 2020-239. This has to do with school resource officers. And Major McNeil with our police department, I believe, is going to join us to discuss this.
Yes, sir. We're requesting the council approve a resolution ratifying and authorizing the execution of a contract with Guilford County Board of Education for the School Safety Resource Officer Program. So in it, the city agrees to provide 8 officers for a period of 1 year to the SRO program, and the board shall reimburse the city $532,240 for the salaries and equipment of the officers assigned to the SRO program for a period beginning on the date the contract is signed through June the 30th of 2021. The contract amount has been consistent for many years, roughly about, I think this will be the 10th year. And after consulting with city management, as we return this contract, we'll be indicating our intentions to request an increase in next year's reimbursement amount in order to meet the current expenses.
Okay. Any comments or questions for Major McNeil?
Major McNeil, how is this going to be affected by, I guess, we finally figure out kids going back to school, distance learning, all those types of things? What would then be the role of this budget item?
Well, also will still be working with the school systems, and of course I think they're starting out with virtual learning, and then some are coming in for the to the schools, so they'll also still be there and on their assignment at post at their assigned schools.
Okay.
What are the dates, Eric, that this money changes hands? I mean, when does it go out and come back? Is it a quick exchange, or do they hold the money for a year? Or how does it work?
We typically, I believe, get 2 payments a year. We'll get one early in the school year and then one later in the school year. I believe that's how it typically comes in.
Okay. Any other discussion on this item? And I'm sure if anything changes with the moving target on how they're going to open our schools, I'm sure will be brought to our attention. Any other comments or questions?
Motion to approve.
Okay, well, I'm going to make a second. Thank you. There's a motion to approve by Councilman Jones, and Councilman Moore has seconded that. I'll call the vote. Councilwoman Peters, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
And Councilman Moore is aye. And Councilman Holmes, are you with us? Oh, I heard it quick. Okay. That motion passes.
Thank you, Major McNeil.
Before you move on,
Thank you, sir.
We do have a phone issue with the Microsoft lines, and were we going to be able to call Mr. Holmes, or?
I think if he calls in, you can get, I don't remember the number to a certain number.
Okay. Or if we can call on a cell phone, he could probably call in on a cell phone.
Can he call the same number Monica did to get on?
Flash, and does it have a flash on?
Not that I'm aware of. No, but if you, maybe on a cell phone, if you call him, he can hear in, but we're apparently having Microsoft phone line issues.
Call Bill Gates.
I've got his direct number.
I'll call him.
All right, well, I'm gonna move on while Victor tries to get, Councilman Holmes on the line. Next item is 2020-265, and this has to do with our fire department and the physicals that they get through the city and, the agreements that we've had, and I think this is probably like an extension because we've certainly looked at this before for the fire department.
Thank you, man.
And, give me 1 second. Is Chief Tommy Reed on with us, or who's from the fire department?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. How are you, Chief?
Doing well, sir.
Good. Go ahead, floor is yours.
Okay, so what you're looking at is a contract with Mobile Doc for physicals that we do these every year. Part of it is for OSHA compliance and NFPA compliance. So in order for our guys to be certified to wear respirators, SCBA and so forth, we have to give them physicals. So this is just a continuation of what we have done for years. And this year he wanted a 3-year contract. So between finance and so forth, what you see before you is basically a 3-year contract. And not knowing obviously what would happen next year, there's always ways to get out if we have to.
Okay, and so we're looking at a total for the 3 years of $297,963, correct?
Yes, sir, pretty much. Okay. And so what we're basically dealing with this year is $96,000 or $98,000. I think our budget line out is $98,000. So, and with a small increase each year for the following 2 years.
Okay.
So Chief, this includes not only an annual physical, but also as it reads on demand as well. That's, you were saying something last time we presented this about how we found a lot of, I don't know if you call it medically preventative maintenance, but just helping with the health of the firefighters and determining any kind of risks they may have.
I think I couldn't quite hear all that, but I think if I understood part of that, it's yes, with this physical that we have each year, obviously there's several things that they look at, and we've had people where they end up with prostate cancer and so forth and all, and that stuff is caught during those physicals. It's very comprehensive, and then obviously what firefighters deal with, the chemicals and all the environments that we work in. It's probably more crucial nowadays than it ever has been to keep a continual monitor of their health and be able to see year to year what goes on with them and look for anomalies or changes in their system. So it pays dividends. It's and not only being required, but it's a good benefit for the employees to know what their health condition is each year.
Okay, I apologize, it's Councilman Jones that was speaking. And one quick question, and my last question would be, how long have we been using this service with this company?
We have been with Mobile Doc for, I know, since I've been chief. We've been with him since 2011 or 12, and then there was a period before that we were with him, and they went away and then came back. The service he offers, you just about can't find anybody out there to match that.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Chief, this is Councilman Hall.
Mike Malone's got a question for you. If you can hear him on my speakerphone. I don't know if I can get any louder. Mike, go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Chief, in the scope of the services, do they do any like assessments on the environments that you guys work in to do predictive hazards, like to kind of give you guys an upfront view of what the hazards are, any chemical chemical risk, chemical analysis? Do you guys have to submit any data to them to help them kind of give you an overview of in the risk assessment? What do you have to give in order to get the assessment from them to be able to give you a proper risk analysis?
Well, we do pretty extensive lab testing each year for heavy metals and so forth. And being that it's tracked each year, we track the exposures like for hazmat team and so forth. And so anything that shows up, whether like the guys that are assigned to the hazmat team or the guys that are in operations that are fighting fire, they're looking for all the different types of chemicals. And then if we know that we've had a known exposure, like let's say if we had a fire at Valsbar or somewhere with all the different types of chemicals, then they can pinpoint and look for it. But the panels that they do are pretty comprehensive overall of what they're doing, heavy metals, lead testing. We do PSAs. We do pretty much everything, and the standard's pretty specific on what they have to test for. So it is a very comprehensive physical. It's probably far more than you get going to your average doctor.
Yeah, I figured that was the case. I just know that, you guys never know where you're going to have to go. And if you do have to go to a company that specializes in chemicals, you may not know what their chemical inventory is. And so, I didn't know if that affected their risk analysis from a predictive standpoint. But, I appreciate your answer.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Holmes. Anything else concerning this item? If there is none, then I am going to make a motion, favorable motion to approve the item for the contract with Mobile Doc.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. Next item is 2020-240. We're talking about contract lighting with Westco. This is down around the development area. Is Gary or Tyler with us?
Can you hear me? This is Tyler.
Hey, Tyler. Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is an item for us. Back when the Catalyst site was being developed, the original architect or engineer selected this particular style of light to use in the development area. We've gone ahead and looking into the Elm Street streetscape project and the Appling Way project, English Underground, that area. We're going to utilize these lights. Typically, this, buying street lights wouldn't be an item we take to council, but with the large order, it brought us into the council threshold. So here we are. But we're going to use these lights on those projects in that area, Elm Street streetscape, Appling Way, and a few others around.
Okay. Any questions on this and what we're doing? Go ahead.
Are any of these, is the inventory of these lights that go with the contract plus replacements?
The lights have warranty for certain items. The lights do have warranties for certain items, but we did order some extras. I know just a few weeks ago we had one of these special lights get run over by a car on Gatewood. So that's something we can go back and charge the insurance company for, but ultimately we still have to order a new light and provide that. So yeah, the lights are warranted, and we did order some extras in case things happen.
Okay.
With us extending this back in the overall scope of what we're doing, I can see that you budgeted in funds for this proposal. Is there any advantage or thought process to delaying this as well, or is that kind of a 6 one way, half a dozen the other thing?
Unless somebody else wants to answer, I feel like we're, eventually going to put these in. If we want that consistent look throughout the Catalyst area, we're going to buy them eventually. We've budgeted to do so at this point, in a capital item. So,
All right.
Also, that one way will be complete here in the not too distant future and will be, because it's a public street, be required to put up street lights. And it wouldn't make sense to put up some other street light and then come back and replace them later.
So these will serve that purpose as well on Athens Way.
yes.
Any other comments or questions? And I will make a motion that item 2020-240, contract with Westco for lighting fixtures and poles be approved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Councilwoman Peters. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
And Councilman Moore's aye. That motion passes. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you, guys.
The next one is a contract that's dealing with our Riverdale pump station. It's item 2020-241.
Gary, right behind you.
Oh, sneaking in.
I'm here.
You look about the same in person as you do in virtual.
I do virtual.
Well, come on in.
This is for the Riverdale Gravity Sewer Extension. This is the Public Service Department's budget for 42-inch diameter gravity sewer system along Riverdale Road. The project will serve two future projects: the Riverdale West Force Main, which is the second force main coming from Riverdale, and the Rosers Creek Force Main. Once they're both constructed, both force mains will have capability to discharge wastewater to this gravity sewer project. The sewer extension is an overall expansion project for Riverdale. Well, the second force main allows us to feed both directions if there's an emergency. The gravity line has about 2,800 linear feet of 42-inch fiberglass pipe, 2-inch PVC force main, an 8-inch PVC gravity sewer line, and 140 feet of linear steel encasement pipe with board jack. 6-inch diameter polymer concrete manholes, and 8-inch gravity sewer manholes. The existing system will be demoed and removed. Once the Rosers Creek Force Main and Riverdale West Force Main is constructed, Riverdale Gravity Extension will carry the wastewater to the east side wastewater treatment plant. The Rosers Creek Force Main currently flows through the Riverdale pump station, and connected to this gravity sewer line will take the flow off of Riverdale pump station, thereby giving us more capacity at Riverdale pump station. Also, we're tying in the MRF sewer system into this gravity system. This will eliminate them having to pump and haul their sewer system to the east side. The Public Service recommends approval and asks for council to award the contract to Delger Incorporated in the amount of $2,572,429.15. We have the award recommendation, a certified bid tab attached, and the project map.
When, this is pretty extensive, obviously, but what do you feel like your start and finishing on this could be for you? 9 months long?
Yeah, 9 to 12.
Big project. Where does this put us on, with our other facilities on, how are we on capacity? I know we had that one where the state had.
Like Riverdale.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, right now, we've expanded installing that one pump. We're now up to 31 million.
Well above what we need.
Yeah. But taking Rosers Creek off, it's going to reduce another $500,000 to ultimately it's going to be designed to carry, Rosers Creek will be designed to carry 4.1 million. So we're going to take a lot of flow off of Riverdale.
Okay. Comments or questions? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
A motion by Councilman Jones and a second by Councilman Moore. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Aye. Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
And Councilman Moore is aye. Thank you. And next on the agenda is item 2022-42. This has to do with paving. And you're gonna keep rolling there, Mr. Hook?
I'll roll on.
All right.
Primary and secondary asphalt supplier is a citywide contract. It means that any department in the city can draw from this contract for asphalt repair or replacement. We budget for it on an annual basis. Again, any department needs it can draw from it. The city retains material suppliers for different types of asphalt used for various maintenance activities such as patching and street resurfacing. And June 11, 2020, we had a bid opening. APAC Atlantic Incorporated, Thomas Arthur Division, provided the lowest bid of the 3 bids submitted. The prices are competitive with historical pricing of this material. The contract will be awarded for 1 year with two optional 1-year extensions if terms and pricing are agreeable. Public Service recommends the contract that the contract appropriate city official and or employee be authorized to execute all necessary documents to award the contract. APAC Atlantic Incorporated, Thompson Arthur Division, in the amount of $278,750. City Council is also requested to award a secondary contract to Sharp Brothers, a division of Lilly and Grogan Incorporated, as a secondary supplier if the primary cannot provide the needed materials.
And that contract is set to where the terms of this one just would flow over?
Yeah.
The cover doesn't change?
What it is, typically we award a contract to both of them.
Uh,
The 278 some thousand goes to the primary, and then there's a small sum allocated to the secondary, just in case something happens. You just keep them under contract for whatever reason.
Retainer.
Mm-hmm.
Questions or comments? I'll make a motion that we approve item 2020-242.
Second.
There's a motion second by Councilman Jones. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Councilman Moore is aye. That motion passes. Next item is 2020-243. We're talking about engineering services for electrical and HVAC upgrades. Tim, you still running?
I'm still running with it.
All right.
This is Amendment 1, engineering services for the Ward Electrical and HVAC upgrade. Amendment 1 modifies the original agreement entered into on October 16th of 2018 for engineering services related to the water plant upgrade. The scope of services is amended to include additional service required for additional work based on time extensions and change orders related to the upgrade. Black & Veatch had originally planned an average of 72 hours per week or 312 hours per month providing contract administration change orders. Since construction began in January 2018 through 2020, Black & Veatch has provided an average of 104 hours per week and 511 hours per month, which is including the original budget. Reason for the additional time put forth are: 1, several project changes that require extensive coordination between owner and multiple reviews and negotiations with the contractor due to unforeseen conditions, including lead abatement, SCADA changes, upgrades, delays due to COVID-19, addition of a second backup generator. We had to reroute the fiber optics between the generator and the admin building. Scope changes associated to existing transformers, bathroom ceiling tiles, and sedimentation basins, wall infills. These changes have extended the construction schedules. Submittals have been complex and reviews have taken additional effort to confirm coordination with the contractor and equipment manufacturers. The additional field inspections has been required to substantiate conformance to design requirements. Public Service Department recommends approval of Amendment 1 to Black and Beach for $1,168,700. In the original scope, the hours are based on what we thought would be the average time to monitor the system. As you know, the water plant is a very complex plant and that we have to keep the system operating at all times. So there's been a lot of changes in hours modifications, which require a lot of monitoring and input from Black and Beach. The one thing, the original engineering services typically runs somewhere between 10 and 15%. Their original engineering services money in relation to the total cost of the contract was about 13%, so it's well within. When they come back to us with an amendment, you know, I make a decision to assume worst case condition, have them calculate based on their average hours and supply this number. This number carries us through, if you look at the contract and extension, it goes through October of 2021. This contract right here has it running through June of 2020. Because we believe, and Black and Beach believe, that Ward Smith will finish before the terms of the contract is finished.
So if they don't hit that, then we'll be looking at an amendment again.
Maybe not, because once we get past the pump installation, high service pumps installation, and the new SCADA system upgrades, I think their time will slack off, because those are the most critical parts of the project.
And who keeps up with these hours?
We do, and Black and Beach. And a lot of the times, it's evaluations of the submittals, not to the right. The lead abatement was a big deal that we didn't anticipate, was one of the things. And then nobody anticipated COVID. And on top of that, what complicated the overall project, not only did we have this project going on, we had two other projects going on simultaneously at the plant. And sort of to eliminate conflict, we had to restrict some work in different areas so nobody would be bumping into each other.
Mm-hmm. Further discussion, comments?
Yeah, I'm looking at the last page. This is Councilman Holmes. I'm looking at the last page. Are these all the principals that participated in the original, in the scope of the work? Senior project, admin, construction manager, engineering manager, civil engineer, resident project representative, structural engineer, senior, structural engineer, architect. Are these all the principals that participated? This is what was required to produce this quote?
Yes, because not only do you have the inspector on site and the senior project engineers, when you do some middle reviews, they disperse it to the appropriate engineering, I'm going to call it the engineering department within Black and Beach for evaluation.
Yeah, it seems like it seems like it's heavy to me in terms of the principals participating. It's a pretty big number, and when you look at the fact that the senior engineer is putting 80 hours into $17,000, and then you come right back with the building mechanical engineer at $61,000. So I mean, it just seems a little heavy in terms of principal participation. And
again, part of this may trim down, and public service made the assumption worst case condition. If Black and Beach had followed their previous calculations, the amendment would have been about $600,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, public services wanted to be proactive and I hate to say it, assume worst case conditions. We think it's going to trim off, and we think we'll probably end up not using all the money.
Okay, so if you just had an estimate guess of what may be trimmed off, could you give us a ballpark figure of what you think it may come in as and how many of these principals may need to participate or not. Just kind of give us a ballpark figure of what you think from your eye test, how this may come in.
I'm not sure, I don't know if I can predict how it's going to come in. I can say that most of the concentration now will be on the installation of the high service pumps and the SCADA integration. And any engineering support required for that is probably going to be the heavy part. I don't know that it's going to be a lot of architectural right now. Architectural, typically because we've been having to tear out the ceilings, and the other thing that's made it complicated. Not only did we have these projects, this plant has been upgraded. You had the original plant, then you come back and did an upgrade later on and converted it to a super pulsator. Now you're going through a third upgrade. In between all that, there were multiple small upgrades, and when you do all these upgrades, you're required to produce as-bills to make sure you have everything documented. Unfortunately, I have not seen an as-bill that's a true as-bill. There's always unknowns. And a classic example is West Side. When we went into West Side and we had to put a new clarifier in there. The original as-bills back in the 80s, supposedly they demoed an old admin building and hauled it off. They didn't. They demoed it, but they collapsed it in the ground and backfilled it. So we went in there and put the clarifier in there. We had to dig all that up.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anything else? Then I will make a motion that item 2020-243 be approved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for approval of this item. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Councilman Moore is an aye. And just a wish list, once it comes in, come back to us, let us know where it ended up. All right?
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. The next item is 2020-244, and this is a contract request for Breeze Enterprises and our water and sewer maintenance department. I'm showing Terry.
Terry Knupp is up.
Yes,
Terry, are you with us?
yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. Yeah, this is for City Council to award the general water and sewer maintenance contract to Breeze Enterprises Incorporated at the contract bid amount of $2,738,838. And just a little bit of background for this request is this contract is a routine annual contract through the Public Services Department, and it's for updating aging infrastructure in various locations around the city. And it would include public water and public sanitary sewer that's located within street right-of-ways, and also public sanitary sewer located in dedicated sewer outfalls. On July 1st of 2020, the city received bids for contract ENG 2020-002 from 4 responsive bidders, and the package today shows the 4 responsive bidders and their amounts, with Breeze Enterprises being the lowest bidder. There was approximately $1 million difference between the highest bid and the lowest bid. Contract would allow the Breeze Enterprises a whole year, 365 days to complete all the contract work. And we do have funds available in 2 different accounts. So therefore, Engineering Services Department is requesting council to approve this bid to Breeze Enterprises for $2,737,838.
And the map on page 2 is the suggested areas in the contract, I'm assuming, where you hope that the work will be done in the next 365 days.
I'm not sure. I I don't believe that we showed, oh, I'm sorry, yes, that we do have a set of plans that had been put out with the bid, and those show the exact locations for the projects. I believe there's 13 of them listed in there.
Okay.
Y'all are familiar with Breeze. In this case, this is planned projects, and that's why you give it years to do the work. Breeze also has our contract for emergency services.
Right.
And we have an actual break in the line. So as Terry said, this is scheduled replacement of old infrastructure.
Right.
And it's just like our road resurfacing that y'all have previously approved. We outlined a number of projects. They bid on those projects and they get a certain amount of time to complete it.
And the money's dispersed per project completion? Is it broke down to where they get paid?
Yes, we do have it broke down in the contract per project.
Okay.
I see a bulk of this, Councilman Jones, I see a bulk of these are in obviously the older areas of town. I'm kind of surprised to see this too in my district over Lakeland Point project on Viking Drive. Why would development that recent already need something like this?
Yeah, on Viking Drive, yeah, that's an old sanitary sewer line, and it's failing in several spots.
How long does like an individual project like that take to repair, replace whatever that per project?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the project. Something like Viking Drive, probably 3 months.
How much disturbance to like the citizens is there as far as, I mean, just blocking traffic, all that type of stuff?
Yeah, with sanitary sewer and water line both being in the street right of way, Breeze Enterprises will probably close a block down at a time because the trench runs parallel with the street. So it's pretty much going to disturb that whole street. If the trench for the sewer or the water line is located closer to one side or the other of the street, they could probably keep one lane open, at least so people get into their driveways. But it's difficult to tell until they start their trench and see what develops.
And will we be sending out, how are we sending out notifications to citizens to know, hey, just like we did with the street repaving, you know?
Yeah, the City of High Point has construction inspectors that will be on each project, and a couple weeks before the contractor moves to a specific project, our inspector will knock on every door and along with the contractor and let people know what to expect. And if the owner is not home, they put what we call a door knocker on their doorknob with some information who to contact if they have questions.
Okay, so at that point in time, Terry, you'll know per street what the conditions are going to be, whether this road's going to be blocked up completely, whether it's going to be one lane. You'll be able to let them know what's about to happen.
Yes.
Okay.
And it is an inconvenience, but it's a lot better than if the sewer line breaks in front of your house.
And you could include council on that as well, just so if our constituents have questions about what's coming up, when this project's starting, how long it's going to take, that type of thing, so that we'll be armed with that information.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions for Terry? Seeing none, I'll make a motion that item 2020-244, contract with Breeze Enterprises, be approved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so used to the roll. Hang on. All right, there's a motion and a second. So Councilman Holmes, I think I heard aye. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thanks. Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
And Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. Sorry, I went back to normal. I guess that's not the new normal. Next item was 2020-245, and we're still dealing on contracts. This one is in utilities, company called KRG Utilities. And Terry, I think you're still on.
Yes. Okay, yes, we're asking City Council to approve a final adjusting change order for the Storm System Improvements Contract, ENG 2019-002, to cover costs for additional emergency repairs to Regency Dam and for additional materials and labor that were necessary for the completion of the other 6 storm drainage projects included in the contract. On May 6, 2019, City Council awarded that contract to KRG Utilities Incorporated for $765,597 to conduct storm system improvements for the Lower Regency Dam repair project and the Kearns Avenue Dry Pond construction. And both of those projects are stormwater detention devices. And also, the contract included 6 storm drainage systems that were located at, one was located at Dogwood Court, one at Parkwood Circle, one at Arbrook Lane, one in Madison Street, and the remaining one at Fairway Drive. Now, when KRG Utilities arrived on site at the Regency Dam to begin work, it was discovered that a significant portion of the earthen dam and the concrete armor had eroded during the period between design, bidding the contract, and start of construction. And so therefore additional costs are needed for that repair, and other costs included in this change order request are for additional stone, asphalt, concrete, a small retaining wall, excavation, and resolutions to existing utility conflicts that came up during the completion of all of these projects. And there is funding available for fiscal year 2021 budget. So we are asking council to approve this final adjusting change order that would close this contract out for $226,264.60.
Thank you, Terry. Any comments or questions on this item? Then I'll make the motion to approve item 2020-245 for the change order to KRG Utilities. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Councilman Holmes. We'll go down the roll. Councilman Holmes.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters.
Aye.
And Councilman Moore is aye. That motion passes. The next item is 2020-246. It's a contract concerning a vacuum leaf and debris collector. And I'm showing Gary Smith. Is he hooked up?
Yes. Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
We can. How you doing?
Doing great.
Good.
This request is for the purchase of a truck-mounted leak vacuum. It's for the stormwater division, used for leak collection, cleaning storm drains and gutters. They are currently using a 2007 model debris collector. These types of trucks have provided excellent service over the years. These actually eliminated the need for the pull behind type leak collection machines. And so what we would like to do is replace this one. The department, they currently have 8 of these and 1 spare. What we would like to do is to purchase the new truck and then move one of these trucks into a spare role and sell the spare truck. And like I say, department, they've had excellent service with these trucks and feel like that this will be a good purchase.
When would you expect delivery if approved?
Probably around December.
Okay. And I understand we have a total of 9, did you say, including our spare?
Correct. 8 front line and 1 spare.
Okay, and how many of the total 9 that we currently have are pull behind versus the type you're purchasing here?
0. We now have all of these self-contained leak type collectors. So we've totally eliminated the need for a pull behind.
And the pull behind, if you're aware of how they operate, require 2 people in the back, additional manpower, raking the,
Into the suction areas?
And we did retain one of those to be used in parks because they have ongoing maintenance there, and that way they could have one dedicated just to them. But for the other residential street type collection, all of those are self-contained units like this.
these are also used not only for just leaf collection, but as it says in here, debris. We clean the curb lines periodically throughout the year so that all that won't wash into the storm drain system and then into the creeks.
Okay.
So it looks like it says stormwater division is currently using in 2007. So that's the one that we would be replacing. So we got 13 years out of it.
Correct.
That's good on this equipment.
Yeah. And explain to me the part about using this North Carolina Sheriff Association. How does that tie in?
Gary, you want to cover the state contracting?
Well, the state contract has really scaled down over the past several years, and the North Carolina Sheriff's Association has picked up that slack. So the Sheriff's Association started out with law enforcement vehicles first, and now they've added, you can buy garbage trucks, leaf backs, all types of equipment off of the sheriff's contract. They go through the same bid process as the state contract did, but this actually they get a percentage off administrating the purchase, and that money that they make on that goes back into training and education and stays here in North Carolina.
It's a cool program. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? And I'll make a motion that item 2020-246 with the contract to purchase the vacuum leaf debris collector truck be approved. There's a motion and a second by Councilman Jones. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Aye. Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
And Councilman Morris, aye. That item passes. And item 2020-247, we're looking at a side loading refuse truck. So go with it, Gary.
Yes, this request is to purchase 3 side loading refuse trucks for the Environmental Services Division. These are used 4 days a week for residential garbage collection. And right now they have a total of 18 trucks. 13 of those are front line. 5 of those are spare trucks. What we would like to do is replace 3 of the oldest spare trucks, which those are 2010 year models with 14,000 hours on those. We would like to replace 3 of the spares, sell those, and move 3 of the frontline vehicles into a spare roll, and then put the 3 new vehicles on the street in primary collection. And the cost of $314,522 is for the truck, installing the body, delivery, training, and right now the expected time of delivery is a little over a year. We ordered 3 last July and we still have not received those. They are due in September. But unfortunately, COVID kind of hurt their operation back in March because they had to scale back the manufacturing facility, and it delayed the delivery.
The age of the 3 you're wanting to replace?
Yes, they're all 3 2010 year models.
So we got 13, this is Councilman Jones, so we got 13 active and 5 spares. So we've got 3 already on order now that have not been delivered, which would bring us to 16 active and 5 spares. correct?
We'll
We
take
get 3 of those spares.
three new ones come in September, 3 old ones will be removed.
Of the spares?
Yes.
And then the 3 best ones that we've got
We'll go to
there
spares.
will go to spares.
But if you're having 5, I mean, I know this is one of the more active areas for that department, so, but those 5 must roll pretty often during a year's time.
Yes, and over the past couple of weeks, they're starting to show their age because the heat is really, it's been tough to get them the minimum amount of 13 that they need daily. We've been able to do it, but these, they're on their last legs, so to speak.
Yeah, I know how they feel.
So that's 6 new trucks within a 24-month period of time then.
Yeah, but we're replacing, this is on the schedule, we're replacing 3 a year
Correct.
throughout, and, or maybe not 3 every year, but
Yeah.
2 or 3 every year, and it takes a year to get them in.
Mhm.
So, and they, as Gary said, it takes all 5 of our backups to make sure we can get 13 on the street at a time. And we just, if you get behind, the citizens.
Oh, yeah.
And it's also an area where sometimes some of the failures that happen with the trucks take a long time to fix as well. So we can have 1 or 2 out of service for a couple months at a time, and that really impacts us as well.
This is Councilman Holmes. Generally, what is the usage in years and or hours that the OEM factory states for these vehicles? I know you said you had one with 14,000 hours on it, coming up on 10 years. Is that generally the OEM spec on that, or because if that's the case, then you're probably going to be coming up on replacing some of the fleet every year. And I think you said you're replacing 3 a year is the plan?
Correct. Yes, and for a city our size, we service about 1,000 cans a day with that truck. So it goes through the motion of lifting the can, setting the can back down. That's 2,000 rotations, and you multiply that 4 days a week, 8,000 rotations a year, or a little over 400,000 cycles. It goes through a lot of wear and tear. But for a city our size and servicing those cans, 14,000 hours is great. Usually we start looking at those around the 10,000, 12,000 hour range.
Yeah.
That way, hopefully
and then you guys, I'm pretty sure you guys have a pretty extensive PM system to try to at least extend that to some extent.
Yeah.
But if you're getting 14,000 hours out of that, I think that's pretty good. Oh, do you think we're going to get any thing? You said you're going to try to sell the 3.
Yes.
Is there a market for that? Do we have any potential buyers? And what is that looking like in terms of recouping that some costs for the new ones we got to purchase?
The last ones we sold brought $100,000 a piece, and that was to another collection company that was, new trucks, no guarantee on delivery. New trucks are $300,000. They bought from us several in the past, and they realized that we have, decent trucks that are well maintained. So that's really something that it's great to get that type of resale out of those. I look at the auction results for other cities that take these and they sell them when they have major items that need to be repaired, and the trucks bring $15,000, $20,000. And to me, that's not really being a good steward of our money. We need to sell these when they have a little useful life left, and we haven't put a large repair into it, like a transmission. Transmission alone is $25,000. So as little items like that, I try to avoid those big expenditures by selling them while they still have some useful life.
And so you said you got 100,000 out of the last sale?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Real deals online auction.
Any other comments or questions on this item? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
There's a motion by Councilman Holmes. I will second the motion. I do that just to make sure y'all are awake out there. So Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Councilman Jones?
Aye.
And Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Councilman Moore is aye. That motion passes. And thank you for the information, Gary, and thank you for trying to be a good steward of the taxpayers' money with our trucks.
Thank you.
Next item is 2020-248. This is a contract for Corning Optical Data Network. It's dealing with our High Point Police Department. Major McNeil, are you still with us?
This will be Steve Lingerfeld.
Steve Lingerfeld. Where's your bag?
Good afternoon, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Yeah, this is a request to purchase a Corning Optical Data Network for the Police Department and 911 Center. The purchase price was $570,382. And this is going to provide all the optical data network for the new buildings, and that's both buildings, the new one and the old one. And when I say the old one, the one that's being refit over in Westchester. And we selected the optical cabling because it's normally cheaper than copper Ethernet. It's also faster and it's a newer technology. So this should future-proof us for the new building. And this will be using the U.S. Communities Purchasing Contract for the purchase.
Okay. Anybody got any comments or questions on this? In the process of, I mean, this will be ordered fairly quickly. Is it ready to be installed now as we speak? I mean, there's obviously construction going on there.
It is. We were pretty much under the gun because they're already putting up sheetrock in the building. So we want to get this done before they put the roofing in or the ceiling tiles in. A good thing about Corning is this equipment is actually manufactured here in North Carolina. So
Right.
They have the equipment on hand and they're going to be able to install it pretty much as soon as we issue the PO, they can get started on it.
Does this come out of the plant in Greensboro by chance?
I think it's the Wilmington plant and there's one in Concord, outside of Concord that does this.
I got you. Okay, any comments or questions for Steve on this? Then I'll make a motion that item 248, contract with Riverdale Incorporated for the optical network for the police department be approved. Councilman Holmes, second.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Councilman Jones. Councilman Holmes, how do you approve?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
And Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Councilman Moore is aye. That motion passes. Next item, 2020-249 is audio visual equipment, again related to the High Point Police Department. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Yes, this is a request to purchase AV equipment for the new PD and 911 center. Purchase price came in at $220,000. The initial company that they looked at, it looked like they were coming in way over budget. So they asked us to come in and take a look. We were able to come in under budget at 220. It was actually budgeted at 291. And this is using a state purchasing contract, North Carolina state purchasing contract.
Comments? I will make the motion that we approve the item for the Camcor Incorporated visual equipment for the High Point Police Department.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. We'll give that second to Councilwoman Peters. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Councilman Moore is aye. That motion passes. Thank you. Next item is 2020-250, and this also is with the High Point Police Department. Steve, go ahead.
Yes, this is it's a request to purchase network storage and server equipment for the data center that's going to be located at the new building. Our current primary data center is here at City Hall, and we have a secondary data center at North State Facility on North Main Street. So what we're going to do is make our primary data center at the new building at the Westchester Drive. and use the current city hall as our backup data center. This purchase price came in at $1,198,053. We're able to finance this over 5 years at 0% interest. And what it's going to do is that's going to save us money when we take down the North State backup data center. It's going to save us about $100,000 a year or $93,000 a year what we're paying for rent. So that'll go away. And this is using North Carolina purchasing contract as well.
So currently we operate out of here and we back up at the North State Center, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we'll just flip that to here once we move.
Correct. And it'll both be in city-owned facilities, so we won't have to pay the rent for the North State facility.
Okay. Any comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, I'm gonna make the motion to approve item 2020-250 with 5S Technologies.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Councilman Jones. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Councilman Moore is aye. That motion passes. The next item is 2020-251, and it's concerning the sale of city-owned property at 1409 Furlough Avenue. This is going to be handled by, I'm showing Joanne, but.
Kim Thor.
Oh, okay, there she is.
Yeah.
You've been sitting down there very quietly. I forgot you were here.
We have an offer for a bid for $1,750 for a city-owned vacant lot at 1409 Furlough Avenue. This is a lot that we show that we own since 1954, but that's only at the tax department. We've not been able to find a deed. It possibly was a donation that someone told the tax department that we owned, and it was just changed over. We have not had any use of the property, and we do not appear to have been maintaining it. So we're looking for council approval to put this through the upset bid procedure.
Kim, I had a question from someone earlier today about that. How did you arrive at the 1750?
That we had a bid on that, and I worked with Randy, and because we do not have a deed on the property, he agreed that we would bring it to council for that amount.
I didn't know if you had given an estimated.
Yeah, that was the bid that came in on it, because there is no deed on it. They may have to go back to a Clodfelder who showed that they have the deed on the property.
So
It's so small in size.
I have a question when it's my turn.
it's your turn.
It's your turn.
Go ahead, you're recognized, Councilwoman Peters.
Well, I have a question. I want to know, number one, how did the person even know about the property to make a bid?
Okay, the property next door is the person who's bidding on it, and they are building a house there, and they want to use this as supplemental land for potential garage or garden.
Okay, but the owner of that property, it doesn't live there. Is it a landlord use?
I think that's what it's going to be.
Okay, all right. But then I think I understand, I called the city attorney today because I did have questions on that particular property, because I was concerned about if we ever came up with the pricing, and she said this just kind of gets it into the bidding process.
That's right.
Okay, because it looks like they're not even in North Carolina, and I just would like, I just think it would be great if High Pointers could have the information available so that they can learn of how to invest in our own community.
Right. Well, they have provided me a Mears Chapel address in Greensboro, North Carolina for the owner.
Okay.
Yeah, for the ownership they have, yes. But we'll go through the upset bid.
Monica, another thing that we're working on, we're just about, I'd say a few weeks out from maybe publishing it, is getting a list of properties that the city is interested in selling. They all have to go through the upset bid, but we want to get like a website where we can have the properties listed and show what the procedure is and everything. So, hopefully within maybe the next 3 months or so, we might be seeing more of these.
And this was one that we really didn't even know that we owned, to be honest with you. It was way back in the back corner somewhere.
Okay.
And what was your name?
I forgot.
Oh.
I'm the masked woman.
That was City Attorney Joanne Carlisle.
Thank you, my apologies.
No problem, it's easy to forget. Any other discussion on this item?
I don't get out much.
Then I'll make the motion to approve item 2020-251, sale of property at 1409 Furlough Avenue.
Second.
There's a motion, second by Councilman Holmes. Councilman Holmes, you are voting aye?
Yes.
All right, Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Councilwoman Moore is an aye, that motion passes. The next item is 2020-255, it's about acquiring 1529 East Chester Drive on the interchange project. And,
That's me, Kim Flory.
all right, keep going.
Yes, this is one of my right-of-way projects. Mark McDonald of our transportation department had worked with NCDOT to realign York Avenue and Ambassador as part of the I-74-311 East Chester interchange project that's taking place. That will require the purchase of a home on the corner of East Chester and York Avenue at 1529 East Chester. We will have to take the house out and they will take right-of-way and easement through there. And they will also put a driveway for the house next door. There's a couple of maps that I've shown you there. 1527's driveway will be cut off from East Chester and will be rerouted over to York Avenue. There's also a map from the construction drawing that shows that driveway coming over. We also propose to, instead of keeping the remnant of land, to convey that to 1527 ownership so that we do not have to maintain their driveway. And the 125,900 was what it come in with appraisal and replacement housing payment, and we negotiated for 135,900.
So York and Ambassador are going to line, and York's coming up to meet Ambassador?
Right, and it'll be a signalized intersection. And the state is paying for the construction as part of their project, and all we have to do is buy the right of way.
I hope they get that one and last are timed up good on the lights. That'll be an adjustment. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll make the motion that this item 2020-255 to acquire 1529 East Chester Drive be approved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Councilman Jones this time. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Councilman Moore is an aye. Thank you. The next item is 2020-259. It's a sale of city-owned property at 107 Kingsdale Court. And keep going right along, madam. Oh, you want to take it? You switching?
Oh, I am.
All right, Joanne Carlisle.
Actually, this is gonna be the unsale.
That's exactly right. Yes, City Attorney Joanne Carlisle, and what we are doing here is reversing in order to sell property. It's been a year ago, I believe. The town of Jamestown expressed an interest in a very small piece of property that they have sewer lines on, I believe. So we said, sure, we didn't have use for it. Your lines are already on there anyway. Took it to city council. Council adopted a resolution approving the donation basically of the property to them. Or no, did they might have paid us something for it?
No, it's going to be a donation.
It was a donation? I was getting these confused between us and go on. Anyway, so then when their attorney Beth Koontz received it, she talked with their council and they did not want to accept the deed with the restriction of public purpose in it for whatever reason. So we came back to the council requesting that the requirement that the city or town of Jamestown use the property for public purpose be removed, which you can do with the city, but it just didn't really make any sense if they weren't getting ready to sell it, it just raised a lot of questions. So at that point in time, City of High Point Council said, no, we want to leave the clause in. I let Beth Cooks know. She went back to her board, and it's been sitting there for quite a while. And I had told her back in December, I think, that if I didn't hear from her board, then I would go ahead and just rescind it. The deed has never been recorded, so all we need is an action that will reverse the action that was voted on for the resolution.
So we are requested to take action to reverse an action.
Yes.
Any comments or discussion on this item? Seeing none, then I will make the motion that we approve the rescission of the sale of the property at 107 Kingsdale Court.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Councilman Holmes. So Councilman Holmes is an aye. Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Councilman Moore is an aye. That motion passes. And now I'm showing this as the last item, and there sits Mr. Lauren Hill, who's been patiently waiting like Job. This is concerning Britannia's opportunities on project. Take it away, Lauren.
Well, council members, you have, of course, heard about the project in closed session on more than one occasion. The document in front of you that we prepared, the agenda prep form, just reminds you it's a $100 million project. $65 million of that would be taxable. The incentive, if it's authorized, would be $1.547 million paid over, as always, in installments if the company performs and they get one of the installments and to protect the city. The public hearing, we hope will be on for Monday. The Britannias will be part of that public hearing. Sandy will be leading the public hearing on behalf of our office. And then, of course, as you know, any vote you would take would be then at that special meeting on Wednesday, since we can't take a vote on public hearing items at the meeting itself during this stay-at-home situation. So, as you have seen, the media has been very interested in it. Front page in the News and Record, as well as the front page of the Enterprise and Business Journal was featured. So you've probably read much about the project already, but I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Appreciate your work and Sandy's in the department on this. Hopefully it can be as good as projected. Is there any comments or questions for Lauren on this? I will make the motion that, just to set the
Brett,
public.
I'm sorry, I did want to make a comment if I could.
Sure.
I just wanted to say that I've met Julian and Kari Britannia on several occasions and actually met with them one day for a couple hours and learned more about exactly what they do. And I didn't really have a lot of knowledge about the whole streaming business, but it's a huge, huge opportunity for High Point and in an area that it could really use the investment. So I just wanted to thank Julian and Kari and that's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman Peters. Anybody else have anything? We will certainly.
This is Lauren. I just have one thing to add.
Sure.
Back when Arnold Kuntz was mayor, I would never say that gentleman ever razzed me, but he came as close ever to razzing me about finding a purpose for this very building that's under discussion here and wanting to bring this part of High Point back. It's that whole block, but especially that building. So it's not official, but I'll be thinking of Arnold Kuntz if indeed this project falls into place and all happens, something he is looking down at with a big smile, no doubt.
Well, that's a great comment. And just for perspective, about what year would that have been?
I started in 2001. He was mayor then, so it would be 2001 to 2004 in that kind of time frame.
That gives us an idea of exactly how long we've been hoping to revitalize that area, and hopefully we'll see that begin. So thank you for that comment, and we will have a public hearing on that on Monday. Is there anything else that comes before finance? Okay, If not, then I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you all for joining. That will go on a public, that will be a consent agenda.